Hello. Okay, we're going to add something to our RV, and this is a water softener. A lot like what you got in your house, but this is made for RVs. And you can see it's made by a company called On The Go. Now, this is one of the big size units, 16,000. Uh, there's another unit that's rated at 7,000, but since we're full timing, we decided to go with the big one. And you plumb this into your fresh water line so that you have soft water. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. Most of the time, if you're a weekend warrior camper, then you don't really need one of these. But since we live in our RV, we get all different kinds of water in our system. And right now, here in Richmond, Indiana, it's really high in iron. Now, let's go back a little bit. With this kit, you get the tank that you see here. You get a little hose that helps connect it, and you get a little jar of test strips so you can find out how soft your water is. Now, let's talk a little bit about RV systems. You've got your whole water system, cold and hot, your faucets, and in our case, an anode type water heater. Now, when you're using a lot of hot water, a lot of iron in it, it plugs up your faucets. It turns everything, rust colored. It's hard to keep it clean, like your shower curtains, your shower doors, your faucets. And in the case of a water heater, it makes them last longer because you're not pumping in all that high iron content, mineral content water throughout your systems. And the water lines in your RV can become plugged. If you ever taken your plug out of your water heater and tried to flush it out, you see all this calcium buildup and white crap come out of it. That gets in your water lines and it plugs them up. And it's really hard to get it unplugged. So that's why we decided to get one of these to help protect our RV and protect our hot water heater. So it's fairly expensive. You're talking about $270 for this big size one. Now you can go to a smaller size one. I think it costs around maybe $150 or something like that. But this big size one that we've got, 16,000 unit model, can soften water. It's rated for something like 1,300 gallons of water. And most of the times you have to regenerate them, and maybe every 2 or 3 months, depending on how much water you use, obviously. Now, the thing uses regular table salt. Go pick it up at Walmart, and 24-ounce boxes. This big size takes 2 boxes of salt, regular table salt. And you just pour it into the top where this cap is, right here on top. You pour your table salt into that and then regenerate it. Regeneration takes about 30 minutes. But then again, it lasts 2 to 3 months, depending upon how much water you actually use. You can also run your water through this when you're filling your fresh water tank so that you have soft water in your tank. And that helps your water pump. So it doesn't become all clogged up and the filters inside your RV. So that's why we got this thing, is to help protect our RV, protect our appliances and things like that. So, brand new, we just got it, and I'm gonna get ready to install it. The first time you hook it up, you don't need to regenerate it. You can you hook it up and you flush it for this big size. You flush it for about 4 to 5 minutes. And then you can just plumb it right into your system. And then, like I said, when you run out of soft water, and it's got little test strips that tells you when you need to regenerate it. Like I said, anywhere from 2 to 3 months. But regeneration, you just pour the table salt, 2 24-ounce boxes in the top of the thing, let it set a little bit. You hook up your hose and back flush it, just like a normal water softener system would do. and then you purge it for about 2 minutes and you hook it back up. It all takes about 30 minutes. So we're going to read in the book a little bit. We're going to plumb this thing into our water system, which I'll show you how we're going to do it. And just a little bit of FYI in case, you know, you ever want to think about getting one. Like I said, for weekend warrior camping, like most of you do, you probably don't need one. But since we live in our RV and we go different places, we get all kinds of quality of water. So that's why we're putting this thing in. So as soon as I start hooking everything up, then I'll show you that. Okay, we'll get back to you a little later when we install it. Bye for now. Okay, this is the water setup we have now. You see, the water comes in at the bottom, into a 90, into our pressure regulator. Always have a pressure regulator. Then we go into this little filter. These are the filters you can pick up Walmart, Camping World, anywhere. Whenever we find them on sale, then we buy some. And then I label it, the month and the day that I changed it. And we keep several spares so we don't run out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put that water softener, I think right here in this area. We're going to run the water into this pre-filter. Then we're going to run it into the water softener and then back out into our fresh water system. So we'll show you how all this is going to work right now. All you see here also, this is our water alarm. If the internal water lines start leaking behind what this is called the Nautilus water panel, if water starts leaking back here, there's a sensor on the floor back in there, and this alarm will go off if this panel starts water leaking. So we don't want to have any water leaks in here. Water leaks kill an RV. This is our water alarm. Up here, this thing up here is a temperature probe, so we can always monitor from inside the RV what the temperature is inside this storage compartment. And the thing we want to do is make sure we put this water softener inside this storage compartment because it's heated and it's air conditioned. So we don't want it to freeze. So we're going to be putting it in here. I'm going to mount the water softener inside of a bucket. Like these big buckets you get at Menards, at Home Depot, or Lowe's, or something like that, just in case the connections start to drip. It'll drip in the bucket instead of out here on the floor. So anyway, this is our water connection now. And as soon as I get it in here, I'll show you how we're going to hook it up. Get back to you in just a minute. Okay. I've got the water softener in my bucket. Now this water softener without water, just when you get it out of the box, weighs about 25 to 30 pounds. So it's not light, but it's not too terrible to move around. You put water in it and it's going to weigh a whole lot more. So anyway, I put it in this bucket, and I've taken an old towel that we had and excuse me, put around the side of the water softener just to keep it from moving back and forth in this bucket. So it's really sturdy. Also, the bucket helps with the footprint to keep it from moving around. And by the time we get everything put back in here, it's going to be wedged in like a wiener in a bun. So anyway, that's how I'm going to hook this thing up. And it's labeled here on the side. You can see it says input down here, and then your output is over here. So we're going to try to take this filter system, we're going to hook it up to this input, and then we're going to have to purge this thing. So I'm going to first shut the water off, and we're going to do a mock-up. And when we get it all set up and we get it purged for the first time, I'm going to empty our hot water heater, and I'm going to empty our fresh water tank. So when I first put this thing in use, it's going to fill the water heater back up with softened water, which will help the anode rod and the steel tank of the water heater last longer. Also, you put softened water in your freshwater holding tank, so if you ever have to switch over to your tank, and you do that with our Nautilus panel up here. Now, a lot of you don't have this, but at any rate, that's how we're initially going to do it. So let me get to it. Okay, say hi, Mom.
Hi.
Okay. Preliminarily, this is our Rube Goldberg setup. We come in with our water down here through the pressure gauge, which we've got set for around 50 psi. We go through our pre-stage filter up into the input of the water softener. And make sure the cap is on tight. Now, this thing is really sturdy. It ain't going to go anywhere. And this is the output side. And then we're going to go right in to our input to our camper. So what we're going to do is we're going to purge this thing, and it says 4 to 5 minutes just to let it run. And I think it's like a drip thing, or a very slow purge. I mean, you don't turn it on full blast, from what I understand in the instructions.
It doesn't really say.
And once we get it all hooked up and purged and everything, then we'll let it pressurize the system and check for leaks to make sure. Now, if this thing starts drip leaking here, it'll run in the bucket. And here, if it leaks, it'll drip in the bucket. And if I got a leak out here, then it'll drip down on this tray, which will then run out through this hole down here. Now, I got a rag in there to keep the mice from getting in there. Not that it makes any difference, because they just chew up the rag anyway. I need to put steel wool in there, or some kind of scouring pad to keep the mice out of here. One time we parked someplace and there was a cotton picking gecko down in here that got up in here. Anyway, we're gonna turn the water on and we're gonna purge this thing for 4 to 5 minutes, and then we're gonna hook it up. But I need to empty the water heater, get all that nasty water out of there. So I'll have to do that too. But we'll get this thing purged and then we'll get back to you. Man, it looks something else. Okay, be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. So we've got it hooked up. We've purged it for 5 minutes. And we used one of the test strips. And Tammy tested the water before we unhooked everything in the kitchen. And it was bright red, the little test strip. So that means it's full of iron. And so we hooked up the water system to this. Like I said, it comes in here, comes through our pressure regulator, and we changed this filter. We put a new one on it, and we purged the filter. And so it comes out, goes into the input side. We have to use this little hose to get the filter on the outside of the bucket. This is the input side. It comes out. The hose goes around the back of it and then hooks up right here. This is our input for our fresh water. And after 5 minutes, Tammy took another one of the test strips and we put water in a little glass drinking cup. She tested it again and it was green? Yellow, which means low iron. So there's a little scale on the side of the bottle with all the test strips in it that you can compare the strip to, and it tells you what the content is. Okay, so we've got it hooked up. We've tested it, the water, and it's soft. So right now I'm draining our water heater, which is 10 gallons, so it takes a while to drain it. So as soon as that's done draining, I'll close it up and then we'll pressurize the water system and check for leaks. Now, I don't like all these connections. The fewer connections you got, the better off you are for leaks. So Well, check the whole system over to make sure that none of these connections here are leaking, or the output or the input over here. But this thing isn't going anywhere. Now it weighs probably quite a bit. And I would imagine that, I don't remember how much water this actually holds with the resin and everything in it. Starting out, it's about 25 to 30 pounds. So I imagine it's at least 45 pounds right now. And being in the bucket with this handle on it, it'll be a little easier too to get it out of there if we ever have to. So we're just going to have to be a little careful about things we put around this to make sure it doesn't damage the hoses or kink them or any of that kind of stuff. So looks like we got it installed. Pretty simple installation. You think, Mom? Pretty simple installation. We got it all put in. We got it tested, and everything looks okay. So as soon as the water heater's done draining, I'll close it all up, and then we'll turn the water pressure on and start filling the water heater back up. And if everything, we'll let the system set pressurized. And like I said, we've got our pressure gauge set for 50 psi. And as soon as you turn the water on, it goes down. But initially, it's set for 50, and that's pretty good. I mean, some of these campgrounds you go into, you got real super high water pressure, and you can blow one of your water lines real easy. So anyway, we're just about done. And as soon as we get the water heater emptied, we'll hook everything back up and turn the water on. So we'll get back to you here in a minute. Okay. Just to go over this again, the reason we're putting this water softener in here is right now we're going to be here until after the 1st of December. And the water is real hard. And this was the washer that came out of it. So you can see how much rust and stuff. And the filter that was in here, this filter right here, we just replaced it. Last time we changed it was in May. And so you can see just how nasty this screen was. And it's just from hard water. So to save our appliances, like our water heater, which is 10 gallons, and it's a steel water heater with an anode rod. Now, some water heaters don't have an anode rod. They're a fiberglass tank. But at any rate, the heating element and everything that's in them things, you don't want your water heater going bad, okay? So that's why we're putting this water softener in. Also, to protect our stool and shower and nozzles and faucets, they all get clogged up with lime and rust and crap. And with the, I don't know how many hundreds of feet of water lines is in this thing. But you want to protect all those water lines because you don't want them clogging up. So that's why we're putting this in. I mean, if you ever have to go through the pain and hassle of changing out your water heater, and them things are expensive. I mean, $270 for this water softener on sale will keep us from having to change our hot water heater because it goes bad with too much rust and crap in it. So that's why we're putting it in. Like I said, we live in this RV full time. So the maximum that we can protect our RV, the better off we are. Weekend warriors, I mean, you know, you guys that just go for a weekend here or there, maybe for a week's vacation, it's not that much of a deal because you don't use it that often. But in our big trip out west, we ran into all kinds of different kinds of water. If you're on city water, it's not so bad because city water's treated a lot. But well water isn't. So that's why we're putting this in here. And like I said, the cost, this unit was $275, and it's rated at 16,000. I'm not sure exactly what measurement that is, but there's a smaller one than this one, and it's a 7,000, and it ranges at about $150, $160. So for weekend type warriors or weekend campers, once in a while vacationists, the smaller one may get you by a lot better for cost. Now this is supposed to last, this bigger model that we got is supposed to last between 2 and 3 months before you have to regenerate it. And like I said, it uses regular table salt. You can buy it at Walmart, Meijer, Kroger, anywhere. I believe it's a 24-ounce box. This requires 2 boxes. You just pour it right into the top of this cap right here. You can use iodized salt or not. Doesn't matter. So that's why we're putting this in here, to protect our RV and our water system. Also, we're set up that we could put a washer and dryer in here. Now, chances are we're not going to do that. It adds a whole lot more weight to the RV, and they're not very efficient. But if we had a dishwasher or a clothes washer in here, you might want to think about putting a water softener in here to save those appliances. Because, man, they can get clogged up, they can get rusty, ironed, and you got a real mess. And you don't want to have to replace them because of bad water. So that's basically why we're doing this. Yeah, it's a little more expense, but like I say, we live in this. This is our home. And anything that we can do to protect it from damage, the better off we are. So we have extra 2 packs of those filters, which is just this filter here. And last time we changed it was in May, before we went on our trip. And you can see just by that washer I showed you how rusty it looked. So anyway, with everything else we've got in here, it's packed pretty full. So I've had things moved out of the way so I could put this thing in here, but it doesn't take up that much of a footprint. But protecting our RV like we want to do, I'll give up a little bit of floor space for this. So anyway, that's why we're doing it. And finally, the water heater stopped draining. So it's time to hook everything up, close up the water heater, shut off all the valves, and then we'll pressurize the system and see if there's any leaks. Get back to you in a minute. Okay, to wrap this up, we've fully refilled the water heater, and I've checked to make sure it's not leaking, and closed it all up, and we've plumbed it in to our freshwater system here, turned the water on, and we're running at about 50 pounds of pressure. We're right on it. So there's no leaks. So I've checked here and around, and there's no leaks. So it's fully pressurized. The water heater is full of softened water. It's going to take a while for this soft water to flush out all the crap water that was in there. And so over a period of using the sink and the kitchen sink and the bathroom sinks and the toilet and the shower and all that, we're slowly going to get all that bad water out of the system. So we should have soft water now. The real test is going to come in tomorrow when we start taking showers and we see what the water's like. So anyway, we don't have any leaks. It looks like it's working perfect. I kind of don't like all this, the way this is connected, but I might come up with something different later. But for now, it's working fine. And I'll come out and check it every once in a while just to make sure nothing's leaking. No connection is leaking. So you want to keep water out of your system, or out of your floors and stuff. So that's, again, why I used a bucket. I've got this thing set in the bucket, and if it starts dripping, then it'll just drip in the bucket. Or if this filter over here starts leaking these connections, then it'll just drip down here in this tray, which is it's what we call our wet bay. And so where the hose comes up through there, the water will fill that up and then overflow and run out on the ground instead of in the floor of the RV. So anyway, it's all in, all done. took minimal amount of time, and we're going to keep our eye on it and make sure nothing leaks. And we'll check the softness of the water inside at the faucets to see what we got. But anyway, just wanted to make this video for you so you know about water softeners for RVs. Like I said, you guys probably won't need one, but if you want to protect your systems, you want to protect your hot water heater, your sinks from getting all nasty, and all the little screens in your faucets from getting all plugged up, this is what you need. You can get smaller units for you weekenders and vacationers, but we went with the big unit because we're full-timing. So we'll let you know how this thing works in the future, and thought I'd just record this for you guys. As we add more things to our RV, we'll make these little videos so that you guys can see how we're living anyway. So anyway, another thing, these little water sensors, there's a little probe that sits down on the floor back in behind this panel. So if any of the water lines leak behind this panel, it trips off the sensor and this thing buzzes real loud, and it runs on a 9-volt battery. And as part of our maintenance procedure for our rig, we check these batteries to make sure they're still good. And this device up here, like I said before, that's our temperature probe. And we've got a monitor inside the RV that tells us what the temperature is inside this storage bay. So we can make sure that it's not freezing in here. And like I said, this bay, when it's all closed up, is heated and air conditioned. So here's a couple more things that you might want to think about adding to your RVs. They're relatively inexpensive. I think Nick bought us this temperature probe as a Christmas present one time. And you can put multiple probes. I can't remember how many, but it's quite a bit. 5, 6, 7, I don't remember. And it keeps track of all the temperatures wherever you put these probes. So it's a good thing to have, to add on to your RV. And as we put more options in our RV, we'll make some videos so you can see what we've got and how it's running. But just thought I'd run this video for you. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.